After the Maroney trial, where we got the verdict against Taurus, about 2 weeks later, of course, as being lawyers, we put it on our website. We made a press release, and I was, real happy to get a verdict like that in a product liability case in Alabama. It's kind of a tough thing to do. We get a call from a family in Albuquerque, New Mexico, who had a drop fire with another Taurus striker-fired semi-automatic gun. They had been to a lawyer in Albuquerque, and the lawyer says, I just don't think I can help you. It's a gun. You're kind of assuming the risk. Again, they're blaming the user for any accident with a firearm. So I flew to Albuquerque and met with Judy and Paul Price. And Judy had been out walking her dog. They live in Albuquerque. She was the secretary for the general at the Air Force Safety Center in Albuquerque. Really high-level lady. Her husband was an engineer, was a munitions engineer. These are great people. She'd been out walking her dog, had a PT-140, which is a Millennium Taurus Millennium striker-fired 40 caliber handgun in I call it a belly band. It wraps around your waist. It's got a holster. And she went to take her after the dog walk. She comes in. She's standing in her closet. She goes to take her sweatshirt off, and the belly band came loose, and the holster and gun fell to the floor. When it hit the floor, it shot her and almost killed her. So at that point, I said, we may have a problem with the way these weapons are designed. It may not be just a one-off problem. So we started looking pretty hard. I got other cases coming in. I had one in Minneapolis, Minnesota, Virginia, Florida. We've had them all over the country. And in 2013, we filed a class action saying that these weapons were, as a class, I think there were 8 models, they were defective. They were all designed, engineered, and manufactured with the same fault, the same flaw. Now I want to kind of transition and tell you about that flaw. The flaw, in my opinion, is so when a weapon falls or is impacted, there's a transfer of energy. Just like if your hand hits your other hand, you feel the force, you feel the impact. Well, the same thing happens when a gun hits the ground or when it hits a hard surface. Well, if the trigger can move, that's a significant problem in a fall. Well, why? Why is that an issue? Well, in a striker-fired gun, okay, you got to think about let me define striker-fired gun. That's where all the components that make the gun go bang, and again, I'm not an engineer, I'm just a lawyer. All the components that make the gun go bang are internal components. There's no external hammer. The only external part of the fire control or the trigger system is the trigger itself. So if you start moving the trigger to the rear, everything inside the gun that makes it fire starts moving as well. Now, if you've designed internal safety devices to prevent an unintended discharge, those only work if the trigger doesn't move. So if a weapon falls or is impacted and the trigger starts moving, well, all the internal components start moving, which means the internal safety devices move out of the way as well. That can lead to an unintended discharge or a firing event. Now, to me, an unintended discharge is when the gun goes off and nobody pulled the trigger. Let's all agree on the premise that a firearm should not fire unless somebody pulls the trigger. Unless there is an input by the user with an intent, and intentionally you are pulling the trigger and making the gun go bang. Any other firing event to me is an unintended discharge and is bad. It shouldn't happen. So in that model, that series of guns, we alleged that they were defective because they could fire without someone pulling the trigger if they were impacted. Once that trigger started moving, the internal components started moving, and the gun could go bang. A lot of people got hurt, and unfortunately, several got killed. Taurus, they settled that case, and you can go to taurussettlement.com and get all the information about that settlement. Taurus still refuses to recall those guns. They won't call it a recall. Hey, again, this is Todd. I'm so happy that you guys have watched the video. Thank you so much. Would love for you to like it, share the video. If anyone needs to see this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have comments, please send them to me. Go to our website, www.mhhlaw.net. There's a link to my email address on there. My email address is twheeles, and I'll spell that twheeles@mhhlaw.net. Shoot me an email if you have a question. Again, I am an active handgunner. I carry a gun every day. I believe in our Second Amendment right. I also believe that manufacturers of firearms have an obligation and a duty to us, the consumer, to make it as safe as possible.